you, ladies and gentlemen. Check 1 2. I can hear myself pretty good. Maybe I can check 1 2. Check, 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 check 1 2. Check, check 1 2. Check. Hey, check 1 2. Check. Yeah, let's put some drops in my eyes. I got 3 minutes for the countdown. Okay, good. Check 1 2 3. Check, check 1 2. Check, check, check. That sounds good. All right, all right. Let's hear tag.
Heroes of Rock! Heroes of Rock!
Cool. Check 1 2. Check. Yes, sir. It is. Y'all, I got to start over. My mic was muted. Okay, I'm getting used to this. Y'all, this is going to be so informal today. I just fixed the problem. And this is really cool. I've got this little deal here called Stream Deck. I can push buttons and I can, look at this, I can change to a close up. I can do a side shot. I can do some really, really cool stuff. And it just helps me to flow a little bit better without having to take my eyes so much off the camera. And I'm trying to learn how to do that too. So I'm going to start off all over again because like a doofus, I had the mic muted. So here we go. So this channel, y'all, is called Heroes of Rock. And today what I'm doing is I'm introducing the channel. So ladies and gentlemen, rock and roll. Today, I'm officially introducing myself and the Heroes of Rock channel.
Hero of Rock.
And y'all, my name is Joe Dunnigan. I'm your host, and I'm
the digital outlaw of rock and roll.
All right, so we're gonna get started today. I want to tell you a little bit about the channel, y'all. This channel is built on three things: life, music, and nostalgia. Now, it's not necessarily going to be all about music because I may do videos that have to do with how to fix something on your car. But it is going to be primarily about music. There's going to be a little bit of guitar playing involved. There's going to be a lot of historical exposure to different bands from the 70s and 80s. That's right, we're going to dive into the 70s and 80s. Those are my two favorite decades, the one that we all lived if you're a boomer or a Gen Xer. To me, it's the greatest era of rock and roll for those of us who lived it, and of course for those who wish they had. So all you young people who loved all those 70s songs by Kansas, Boston, Foreigner, the Allman Brothers, we could go on and on. Now, I may go back into the 60s too, because I grew up on incredible guitar players like Glenn Campbell. He was one of the most successful studio musicians back in that time, and he stepped over into having an incredible solo career. Everybody knows the song Wichita Lineman, and there's just so much more, and I would hear these on the in my dad's car driving around. This is when FM radio just first came out. I remember it well, and you'd hear songs, you'd hear Blood, Sweat, and Tears on the radio all the time. You'd hear Glenn Campbell all the time. And my dad, he was more into classic country. He loved the Waylon Jennings and loved Johnny Cash and loved the early career of Linda Ronstadt, which is where the Eagles came from. And so today I'm officially introducing myself, Joe Dunnigan, and the Heroes of Rock channel. And this, as I said, this channel isn't going to be just about songs, y'all. It's going to be about life, man. I'll tell you, I've been having a rough day today. I have been chasing ghosts on my 2017 Jaguar XF for about 4 or 5 months now. I've had a starter go out in it. I had electrical issues due to a failing battery, and then the battery that was replaced, it caused even more problems because the battery clamp on the negative post was stretched out and didn't fit over it anymore. And the company that replaced the battery didn't notice it right off the bat. And eventually it just became loose and I could just jerk it around and it would move, y'all. So I want to say, first of all, kudos to Christian Brothers in Salina. They really have stood by me on this and done the right thing. They just replaced the battery again. And I paid for the battery clamp, and now the electrical issues are all gone. But now I've been having mass airflow, basically vacuum issues, where it's either pulling error somewhere on the engine, and it's always on the driver's side. And I thought I had fixed the problem. There was actually a small leak in the rubber boot. I wrapped a bunch of silicone, self-fusing silicone tape around it, and that stopped the leak. So we know we got the leaks finished now. But the problem is, I bought 2 mass airflow sensors. They were Bosch OEMs. They're good. You know, not the most expensive ones, but they weren't cheap either. And so I replaced them. I installed them. Well, one of them is defective. It's not working. And so people are texting me, y'all. I told you I'm just going to keep this real. Let's see. Anybody text me or no? I probably should turn my phone off, but that's okay. So anyway, I ordered another one from Amazon, which was an aftermarket one. It worked for a little bit, and then it started throwing all these misfire codes and stuff like that. So it's feeding the computer bad data. But the good news is the company that I ordered the mass airflow sensors, FCP Euro, great company, y'all. If you have a European car, I highly recommend them. I'm going to let them know that I give them kudos on this live video, and just because they've treated me right, they've done the right thing. They're replacing the mass airflow sensor that's bad. They're sending me another one. So until I get it in, there's an old trick right now. And y'all, I'm a common sense guy, right? And ChatGPT put it to me like this. So I unplugged the bad side there, because there's 2 mass airflow sensors, one on passenger side and driver side. So I unplugged the driver side one, and of course the computer reverts back to default air settings, and the car runs smoothly. And so I can drive it short term like that. It's not going to hurt anything. What ChatGPT explained it was, think of it like this: as a chef, when you are measuring, you are doing it precisely. When you're just eyeing it, it's good enough, but it's not precise. So on a European car, we're going for precise. So hopefully when I get that new mass airflow sensor in, it's gonna work. Those troubles are over. And I'll tell you what, the battery issue, the electrical problems, and the starter too. Man, I had a pretty severe case of PTSD because the car would start intermittently, and it was kind of getting to where when I pushed the button, I would have this like the sensation where like, is it going to start or not? It was just so weird. But anyway, they don't have that problem anymore. So I think the PTSD is subsiding. Now it's just frustration over the whole sensor deal. And hopefully I'm going to get that figured out soon. And also too, I'm going to change the spark plug soon. And it's actually looks like it's pretty easy on a Jaguar. So I'm probably going to do that this week, or I'm going to kind of wait and see when the new mass airflow sensor comes in. And because there's no problems with my spark plugs at this time anyway. All right, so I'm gonna move forward, and this channel is like I said, it isn't just about the songs. It's about the moments and when we hear those songs. I think I was about to, when I had my microphone off and I realized that I was going to tell you a story. When I was about 12 years old, I was throwing the Dallas Times Herald newspaper, and I'm trying to sit up, y'all, and have good posture. Sorry. So I delivered the paper on my bicycle, which during the week it was actually not too hard. I mean, you're riding around the neighborhood, and I don't know how many customers I had, but it took me a good solid hour and a half to throw the paper. And my God rest her soul, my wonderful mother, almost every day, but not every day, because she wanted me to learn and wanted me to work on my own, but she did help me. She felt sorry for me because it was a lot of work. I mean, think of it, you got this canvas bags. Motorcycles have, the bags on the back and everything. Well, this fit on the seat, and then you sat on the seat, and then there were bags full of newspapers, and you grab from the right side and throw to the right side, and you grab from the left side and throw to the left side. And after a while, by memory, you just know, you don't have to look at a piece of paper anymore. You just know which house to throw to. And so anyway, at one point in time, I remember it was the summer when I was 12 years old, and I had two free Six Flags tickets. And you know how it was when you're a kid. If you live anywhere near an amusement park like Six Flags, you just know it's so much fun to go to. And it doesn't matter when you're a kid, it didn't matter how hot it was. I mean, there was always water where you could get wet and stuff like that and cool off. So anyway, me and a neighborhood friend of mine named Terry, he and I went to Six Flags, and our parents dropped us off and picked us up. And we spent the whole day out there. And there was this point in time where the Doobie Brothers Listen to the Music came on. It's just such a great and powerful, upbeat song. And it was playing over the loudspeaker there. And there's this, the sound of the roller coasters and the rides. And then the one thing that stuck out to me the most was that tar smell that was on the telephone poles out there. You could see the tar actually on the telephone poles. What that was for, I don't know. But you could smell it in the asphalt that you would walk around on and everything. So every time I listen to the music, it takes me back to Six Flags and that time when I was a kid. And that's what this channel is all about. That music when you're driving down the road, and it takes you back to that special time. And sometimes songs make us sad. Sometimes songs make us happy. And this particular song makes me happy and puts a smile on my face. And I got other stories like this. I thought of another one today. I walked into, it was, I believe it was AutoZone, and lo and behold, Metallica's Enter Sandman came on, and it just immediately took me back to when I was at Musicians Institute back in 91 and 92, and on Fridays, one of the elective classes, I guess you could say, the cable from the headset is bugging the crap out of me. Y'all, I told you this is going to be raw. I'm never, ever going to be, it's never going to be polished or anything like that. It's only going to get better. My speaking is going to get better. I'm going to feel more comfortable on camera and microphone, but that's okay. So anyway, it took me back to that time when I was in Musicians Institute, which was my dream school to go to ever since I got out of the Navy in 1985. And y'all, here's what I looked like in boot camp. I was 19 years old. 19 years old, man. I found this picture in a box that my mom had put together, I guess before she died. My poor mom, she died on December 25th last year on Christmas Day. I got the call at 7 o'clock in the morning. It was my stepdad, and I knew she was gone. And she had stage 4 terminal bone cancer. And boy, she was a trooper. Me and my brother, we talked to her just a few days before she passed, and she was awake and alert. She could talk, but she was heavily medicated. And we kind of made our peace with her and everything. And 4 days later, she died. And so I grieved a little bit. I'm not one of those that's like a heavy griever or anything like that. Of course, I'm sad my mom's gone. It's very surreal that my mom's, I called her every day after I got off of work. That's just the kind of relationship that we had. I'm a mama's boy. My wife makes fun of me all the time about that. But her grandson is a mama's boy too. So anyway, well, I'll tell you about them, later on and everything. I got this whole crazy extended family. I love them all. And they've been such a blessing to me and everything, but I'll get back to the story. So anyway, Enter Sandman on Fridays, they had a live workshop. And starting, I don't know, probably about 1 o'clock right after lunch until school was over at 5 o'clock. You would basically rehearse, find the musicians you needed that week, and then you'd rehearse all week long. They had these rehearsal rooms, they were classrooms, and you just set up in there. They had, makeshift PAs in there and stuff like that. You'd bring your, amplifier, or you'd use theirs or whatever the case may be, and your microphones, and you'd set up and rehearse all week long. Well, I got voted not only to play guitar, we had 2 guitar players in the band, but I was playing guitar like James Hetfield and also the lead singer. At that time, I was actually taking singing lessons. I had just started. I actually never sang lead before in front of anybody. And of course, Friday comes around and I'm hoarse from singing all week long because basically I'm singing wrong and I'm screaming the song almost. Not screamo, but I'm like really belting it out. And I'm learning how to sing a little bit better now, and eventually I will sing songs that are definitely in my range on this channel. There's going to be some live guitar playing eventually. I got something coming up. I'm not going to really tell you what it is today. Those around me know what it is, but I got a surprise coming. But anyway, so we got in. It's a, not really a stage. It's really flat on the ground, but it's got stage lighting and great PA system. It was in the main auditorium at the school. And if you're ever out in Hollywood, California, go see the school, man. It's super cool. You might just run into some really cool people out there. I was around people like Russ Parrish, who everybody knows now as Satchel in Steel Panther. And I was around great teachers like Keith Wyatt, great blues guitar player, Ross Bolton, God rest his soul. He passed away from cancer years ago. He's an incredible funk guitar player. I was around Jennifer Batten, and if you know Jennifer Batten, you know she did 3 world tours with Michael Jackson. That's how great a guitar player she was. And I did classes with her, and y'all, I swear to God, I'm going to get back to this Enter Sandman story, but I'm just winging it. So, anyway, one day in class, and it was just a small room. It was just her and probably, 4 or 5, 6 other students in there. And we were just kind of learning licks and talking life and, things of that nature. This cable is really bugging me. Anyway, there was somebody playing in the room right next to us, and it was horrible. Poor guy. We know he was just trying to learn and stuff like that. We've all been there. No matter what kind of things you're trying to learn how to do, you suck at first. And certainly I did. I knew 3 chords, A, G, and D in that. Well, I knew E too. The open chords. I didn't know bar chords when I first started out. Had to learn those. And, not only from the 6th string, but from the 5th string, and then eventually from the 4th string. And then of course, then you just start getting into, noodling in the minor pentatonic, box, which everybody calls the box for a reason, because you're boxed in. You're saying, oops, water. Anyway, so, we're sitting in this classroom with Jennifer Batten, and this guy's playing next door, and he's terrible. And, she said, somebody go drop a stink bomb, in that room. And I said, do you have one? And she said, yep. She handed me a stink bomb. I walked in next door and threw it in there. And man, you could see that guy run out of the room screaming, and we were laughing so hard and everything. God, we were awful, y'all. But it was, those are the kinds of things that you experience when you go and you do something like that. That's that nostalgia. Man, I'm remembering it right now. And I've actually run into Jennifer Batten like years later after I graduated, and she still remembers that story when I bring it up to her. And so it's just one of those cool things, y'all. So getting back to Enter Sandman. So I'm hoarse the day of Friday and everything, and I'm drinking like lemon water. I'm, doing every singer trick in the book that I, thought I knew back in the day. And eventually my voice came back around, and it was our time to go up and play. And we actually did really, really good. I was absolutely surprised at myself, because I'd never sang lead like that before in front of anybody. And so it was just an inspiring moment for me. So hearing that song in, of all places, AutoZone, it just brought me back to that time, y'all. It was so cool. And y'all, that's what music does to us. That's what rock and roll does. If you are a fan of rock and roll, you know what music does to you. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to tell you a little bit about me and get into why I started this channel. I've been playing the guitar for almost 50 years. I'm still learning. Even after all this time, I'm still learning. I still listen to songs and try to learn the leads of them. I still do go to other guitar channels on YouTube, and I try to learn new things. And I'm not a rock star, just a guy who loves music deeply. I have played live a lot. I was in a band twice called Rough Justice with my good friend Scott Bond. And Scott is my oldest and dearest friend. We're kind of like ships passing in the night these days. But I joined Rough Justice after I came back to Dallas from Musicians Institute in 1992. I played in that band for a couple of years and played in a couple other bands after that. And then Nirvana came along and screwed everything up. Y'all remember that, I know. Not a knock against Nirvana. Kurt Cobain was a very, very talented songwriter. I didn't care for his guitar playing, but he was a great songwriter. There's no doubt about that. And so music, for me, it's been a constant through life. Ups, downs, everything. And that's why this channel is personal to me, y'all. So music has always been there for me. I remember, and even while life got complicated, I remember my mother, she bought not a Hammond, boy, I'm telling you, this 64-year-old mind, my wife gets on to me all the time because I can remember something from 50 years ago, but can't remember what she's saying 5 minutes ago. And she gets on to me about it all the time. So I'm trying to do better. It was a Kimball. Thank you. And I'm the only one that ever got on that thing and started playing it. And I learned how to play like Greensleeves. It's one of those things where one finger you held a chord and the other finger you played the melody. It was one of those kinds of organs. And it had bass pedals, and you could play it like a regular, almost like a B3. It was a dual stage keyboard. You had one up and one down, and then you had the pedals. And but it was also really good for the beginning musician that just is needing to learn the ins and outs of getting around the keyboard. And y'all, just a minute. I got to turn the air conditioner down. I'm about to burn up in here with these lights, but I'll try to keep talking while I'm doing this. I'm not the best at multitasking, y'all, but I'll do my best. Let me see if I can get Residio up and get the, oh yeah, it's 78 degrees in here. It's pretty hot. Let's see, mode. It's in cool, good. We need to bring the air conditioner down to about, let's say, 70 degrees for now. It sucker should be kicking on just any time. All right, where was I? Oh yeah, so the Kimball organ, and I played it. But my mom was a wheeler and dealer, and when she went in to buy the organ, and God knows, I don't even know why she bought it. I have no idea. But there's a funny story behind it a little bit later after I tell this part. My mom was a wheeler and dealer, and when she went to go buy the organ, she told the salesman, "I'll buy the organ if you'll throw in an acoustic guitar." So they did. I don't even know what brand it was. It was decent. It was good for me to learn on. And I'm the only one that played that too. I was probably, I don't know, 12 years old when that happened. And it might have been a little bit later, it might have been junior high, because I remember my freshman year, I would take that acoustic guitar to school, and after school, I would sit in the hall I went to Bartner High School in Richardson, and where I think it was, I don't know if they built it, but it was the gym back then. It was the hallway that either led outside into the east parking lot, or if you took a right, it went down to, there was a girls' gym and the boys' gym. And so I would sit there, and the reason why was because the Bandoleros, the high kicking drill team for the school would be in and out of there, and girls would be in their curlers and all that kind of stuff, and their tights and stuff like that. So I'd sit there and play guitar. I knew what I was doing. I was trying to impress somebody, even though I couldn't play a lick on the guitar. And I would sit there and I would learn how to play chords and things of that nature. And so that's where it started for me. Now, the cool story about the Kimball organ. So my mom remarried in 1987, I believe, to my stepdad Jim. And the day of her wedding, she's getting ready for the wedding and all that kind of stuff. And our next door neighbor had been out mowing his lawn, so all he had was a pair of shorts on. He was an older guy, and a pair of deck shoes. I can't remember what they were called, but everybody wore them back then in the 80s. And he was wearing those. And all of a sudden, he walks into the house and he goes to the organ and he starts playing a song on the organ. And my mom had been upstairs getting ready, and she heard the organ playing, and she was going, "What the hell is going on?" And she walked out of her room, and there was this guy. I think his name was Pat. I might have that name wrong. He was playing the organ, and he was good. He was really good. And my mom said, What are you doing? I'm getting married today, and you just walked into my house and started playing my organ." And this is what he said. He goes, "I have no idea why I did this." And he said, "I just have no idea." And he said, "I just walked in and started playing your organ." And he said, "I'm so sorry." And my mom, to this day, she would tell you that it was my grandmother, her mother, that was visiting her out of the spirit realm somehow. And she would, and basically my mom thinking that my grandmother was coming to visit her and let her know she was there in spirit. That's just kind of one of those stories, you know. I can see I'm glitching a little bit, y'all. I'm trying to figure that out. I'll just tell you something about this channel. I got an old jalopy for a computer, a laptop. It's a Dell, and it's a killer laptop. It's a gaming laptop. I've had it for 9 years. I actually got it in January of 2018, which means it was built in 2017. So that computer is 9 years old and still works great. I upgraded the RAM in it and stuff like that. But to do a live video like this, it takes a lot of CPU, which probably later this year sometime, I'm going to be building a production computer. Prices right now are way, way, way too high. I mean, it would cost me $5,000 to build the computer I want to build. So I'm just going to wait. It really should only cost me about $2,500. The prices are just sky high right now. So I'm just kind of waiting and abiding my time. ChatGPT says it's going to be about 6 to 8 weeks before things start to taper off as far as price goes. So I want to get back on track here. Certain songs, they just take you back to a specific moment. Like for me, listening to Wichita Lineman always brings me back to riding around in my dad's Mustang and hearing Glenn Campbell on the radio. I think FM was brand new. And this is back when music wasn't just background noise. You know, it was an experience. One of my favorite memories of all time was one Christmas. I think I was probably about 12. My parents got me this one of those fold up turntables with the built-in speakers that you could kind of carry like a suitcase. And there's a story behind that one too that'll come up, but I'm not going to tell you yet. But they also bought me I'm having a moment now. Oh crud. He sings Rod Stewart. The Every Picture Tells a Story album, which has Maggie May on it, is one of the most phenomenal albums of all time. Every song on that album you would recognize if you heard it. It's just a phenomenal album. That's one of my earliest memories of music, really, that was such a significant influence to me. I would hear the Allman Brothers Whipping Post all the time, or Statesboro Highway, the song. I think that's the instrumental. I think that's right. Y'all don't get mad at me if I have memory problems and stuff like that. It just happens when you get older. Sittings with albums, I would learn every note. It was an experience. When I was 19, 20 years old and I was in the Navy, I would sometimes, the ship would go out to sea and I would stay back at the barracks. I was stationed at Charleston Naval Base. And y'all, let me just show you something here. This is really cool. This is what AI did it helped me to recreate the ship, and it's the exact likeness of the ship in action. Isn't this freaking cool? Oh, it's not playing now. Really? Oh, there it goes. That's just a computer. I'm going to play it again. Let me see. I'll go back to main, then I'll go back to USS Patriot. There we go. Cool. Isn't that cool? That's what my ship looked like right there. Exactly. It was the USS Petrel ASR-14. And I was stationed there for almost the whole time that I was in the Navy. And except for boot camp, except for going to radio A school, and also the last month that I was in the Navy, I got reassigned to the USS Frank Cable, which was basically a Navy cruise ship. It's a sub-tender. They called them tenders. They basically a supply and a logistics ship. It was just such a cool time in my life. So when I was back at the barracks, I bought a Kramer Beretta guitar, and I didn't have an amplifier. So somehow I figured out how to plug the guitar into my roommate's stereo, and I was listening to the Ozzy Osbourne live album right after Randy Rhoads got killed, and Brad, now here I go again, the guitar player from Night Ranger. Anyway, another glitch. I was learning how to play those songs, and playing through the stereo was so funny. I remember I marched in marching band, and I guess I didn't really care for it. After that was my sophomore year, I was skateboarding. It wasn't as cool as I thought it was, and I really enjoyed skateboarding more. And there was so much, Bad Company, rock and roll. It's all part of my rock and roll fantasy. The Rock and Roll Fantasy had just come out during that time. It was such a great song. We'd hear the Cars playing all the time. Just a lot of punk rock, coming out at that time. It was really cool. Y'all got to take a drink. So it just wasn't, I don't know. My junior year, this is kind of leading up to what really changed my life, but I'm really not going to go into it today, because I'm going to do several live videos to kind of introduce the channel and what this is about, because I really want to hook you into this before I get into really starting to create stuff like that. I got a lot of ideas. It's going to take a lot of work, and this is something that I want to get used to talking on camera, and I'm not looking in the camera enough. I'm kind of looking at myself in OBS Studio. So maybe I should figure out how to set my camera right there where it looks more like because it's just above that. So see here, I'm looking into the camera, and that's probably what I should be doing. And every once in a while, you're going to see me look over this way, and I've got bullet points and notes, but I'm also trying to wing it as well. And I just go back to where I left off. But what happened was, I had my driver's license, and I played saxophone. I started off on alto saxophone when I was in the 7th grade, and played all the way through my sophomore year. When I marched in marching band, I played tenor saxophone, and then symphonic, I went back to alto sax. I just never got that good on it. I actually bought a tenor saxophone many years ago, and tried to play. But if you'll notice on this side of my face, I got a little bit of a lazy eye, and my mouth, if I smile, you can see that side of my mouth doesn't open up all the way. I had Bell's palsy back in 1994, I think it was April of 94. So it's been a long time. I'm used to it now. I was going to wear sunglasses, because I was feeling a little self-conscious and everything, but I'm getting over that. So, I mean, I could do this. I may do it in some videos, but for now, no. So I took the saxophone down to a music store that used to be down at Forest Lane and Marsh. And if you are from Dallas, Texas, you know what that area was. That was on Friday and Saturday nights. That was the Cruising Boulevard. And it was, you'd be going up and down Forest Lane right there at Marsh Lane. And there was a music store there, and they had a Memphis Les Paul copy that was a Cherry Fireburst. And I don't even remember how much it was, like $300 or $400 maybe. And it seemed like $1 million to me. But I worked at that time. I'd been working at my first job was at Skaggs Albertsons. My mother walked into the store and talked to the manager. And I used to remember his name all the time. I want to say Frank, but I don't think that's what it is. But anyway, he was a really nice guy. And my mom went in and said, my boy's about to turn 16 years old and he needs a job. So there you go. I started working at 16. I mean, literally right after the day I turned 16, I got my driver's license and I went to work. And so I went to school full time and darn near worked full time when I was going to school. I think I worked like, 30, 32 hours a week because I would work on weekends, and I'd also work, at night after school, sometimes not getting home until, 10, 11 o'clock at night. And then having to do homework after that. Let's just say this. I was not a great student. I graduated though. I graduated with a low B average just by the skin of my teeth. But anyway, so I traded in a saxophone for that guitar, and boy, my parents were mad. They were pretty mad, but they got over it. My dad even bought me my first amplifier. It was a Yamaha 212. I think it was a tube amplifier, if I remember correctly. I don't even remember what model it was, but it was a decent amplifier. And so I just have these stories that I want to tie nostalgia into it, because I know that you guys have similar stories. It's not about me. It's just about sparking that nostalgia, those wonderful feelings that we get when we hear music, and sitting with albums and learning every note like I was trying to learn on the Ozzy Osbourne live album. And, trying to learn every lyric and everything. Some songs I can sing verbatim. And there's other songs that I'm still thinking there was a particular lyric in the song. I was singing it wrong all these years. And if those come up in my memory, I'll try to tell the story about them. But, when I was a kid, I was chasing a sound that I heard. And, one of the biggest influences for my guitar career, I guess you could say. Of course, many guitar players say this. Eddie Van Halen. I mean, I didn't even hear. Well, I take that back. The very first album, I would hear Van Halen in the at the planetarium at Richland College. We'd go there, midnight on a Friday night or something like that, and you would hear they would play one of the what was the song? Show Your Love, I think it was. It would go ba ba da shoo doo wop, ba ba da shoo doo doo wop, ba ba da, and they would, with the laser, they would make lips that would do this. I just remember that's just one of those things, nostalgic memory right there. But I didn't really get Van Halen until the Van Halen 2 album, and we all know what happens at the start of that album, Eruption. I mean, Eddie Van Halen's solo, and it's just something that he was putting together just after a while. And I think it was, I want to say it was Ted Templeman, who was the producer of those albums, who asked him what that was. And he said, I'm just putting it together. And he goes, that needs to be recorded. So you all know that music connects generations. Your kids, the viewers of this channel, that feeling when a guitar tone gives you the chills. It happens to me all the time. I mean, George Lynch, his guitar tone on the Lynch Mob album, the first one, was insane. It was so good. In every song, it's one of those deals. I cruised to California on the way to music school at Musicians Institute. I just bought a 1987 300ZX with T-tops in it. And air conditioner didn't even work, but you don't need it in California, in Southern California. And I drove out there by myself, had loaded up everything that I had and fitted into the back of that car, which means it wasn't much. And y'all, man, I'll make it. I'm going to go down a rabbit trail here for a second, so I'm going to try to guide myself back. Note to self: come back to driving to California. So right before that, y'all, I was destitute, man. I didn't have a job. I'd been out of the Navy for 5 years. The job that I did in the Navy just didn't translate to civilian life. Not like being an engineer or a welder or logistics or something like that. I was a radioman. There was no radio equipment out there. It was all Korean War equipment that we used on my ship. The ship had been around since the late 1940s, I think. 1947 was when it was christened. So anyway, I was destitute. I didn't have nothing. And I was staying at my dad's, and I remember I would drink fists of Jack Daniels like it was nothing. And I was smoking cigarettes, falling asleep, and I'd wake up the next morning and the cigarette butt in between my two fingers burned down to the butt. I was just so depressed and just in such a bad place. And so then I had been living in, what happened was I moved back from Austin. Now, that was a great experience. In 1988, that was really cool. Austin was way cool back then. It was very hippie-like, not so much technology like it is now. And moved back to Dallas and moved in with a college friend of mine named Joel. And we lived in an apartment complex down by the Village Country Club, right outside. We were ghetto. We were right outside of the country club, and that's where all the strip dancers lived. So it wasn't all bad. There was a good friend of mine named Jim that worked at Angelo's Pizza. He was kind of the night manager there. He worked by himself. And if you know that area, so Angelo's Pizza was on the end of the building, and here's the front of the building. And at that front of the building was the La Bear. And then right over here next to La Bear, there was another kind of a rock club too that had just got up off the ground. And so we became friends with the La Bear dancers and stuff like that. But Jim had a friend, I'm not going to say his name. I don't want to give him any kind of glory. And he was staying with him temporarily. He was from Plano. And the guy would borrow my bicycle and he would bring it back to me clean all the time, in better shape than it was. So you would never know what I'm about to tell you that this guy did. You would never think that of him. I mean, to me, he looked like Howdy Doody. Red hair, freckles, and just always smiled and was funny. And he one night robbed a 7-Eleven and killed the clerk, shot the clerk dead. And then not too long after that, he killed an 86-year-old woman and her 19-year-old grandson that he was supposed to be friends with. And we don't know why. There's a lot of speculation as to what happened that day, but the guy killed 3 people, murdered 3 people, stole the lady's car and drove to Las Vegas and got caught there. And I remember my friend Jim working in Angelo's. He called me on the phone and he said, "Hey, Joe, turn on the TV. Better yet, get your ass down here. You're not going to believe what happened." And I went, "What?" And he goes, "They caught Mark in Las Vegas. They arrested Mark in Las Vegas." And I went, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah, they just arrested Mark in Las Vegas. And I just saw it on TV." And he said, "You're not going to believe this, but he killed an 86-year-old woman and her 19-year-old grandson." And so I got on my bike and I raced down there, and it's still on. It's just playing. It was like big news back then. This was end of 1990, I think it was. I know, might have been either late 89 or early 90 when this happened. And so I went down there, and Jim made me some pizza, and we're watching it and everything. And the guy got extradited. I said his name, Mark. That's all I'll say. He he got extradited back to Dallas. Well, I want to reverse a little bit. We had heard about the 7-Eleven robbery. In fact, that night, I'd been laying in bed. It was, I don't know, 10 o'clock at night or something like that. I was laying in bed and almost asleep, and I sat straight up in the bed and thought I heard a gunshot. And I thought, oh, it might have been a dream, or whatever. So I laid back down, and the next thing you know, there's like sirens, cop cars coming everywhere. There was a helicopter with the spotlight, you could literally shining, all in, into the apartment complex. There was a parking lot, and then there was a tennis court. That tennis court, I used to hop the fence to walk down to the basement. How many of y'all remember that place? Man, you saw some killer bands. That was a killer club. I met Daryl and Vinny from Pantera before they were like super huge. And then they got huge and still went there, and just two super nice guys. We'd be doing shots of Jägermeister and the little 25-cent cup that you would buy, and they'd fill your beer up for 25 cents. I used to hop that fence. It was about a mile walk, and then I'd stumble home and hop the fence again and go to bed. Well, anyway, so you could see they're looking all in this place, and I'm looking out my window and I'm going, what the hell is going on? And of course, the next day is when we found out what had happened to the 7-Eleven clerk. Well, so I worked at TGI Fridays, and it was probably some Friday evening or something, Saturday night or whatever the case may be. And my buddies, I was going to be getting off at like 10 o'clock, and we were going to go do something. So they came up and they sat at the bar waiting for me to get off. And Mark was with them along with another friend of mine, Brian. And Brian was a great guitar player. And he taught me a lot of stuff too early on. And so anyway, what happened, I walked out of there. I worked in the kitchen as a I forgot what they call the position, but I would literally get the plates ready and put them on the trays for the waiters to take out, and get all the extra stuff that you have to put on there. And so it was it was obviously getting a little bit slower. So I walked out of the kitchen up to the bar and saw that they were there, and they were talking about the 7-Eleven robbery. I mean, just kind of in jest. I just happened to walk up right at the right time, and they were kidding about, no, I did it. No, I did it. No, that kind of a deal. There were like 3 or 4 of them up there waiting for me. And I'll never forget what Mark said when it came his turn to say, I did it. And he goes, no, I did it. I really did it. And of course, we still thought he was joking. It was though just the way that he said it in his howdy doody way. We just thought that he was joking. And so, I kind of didn't even cross my mind or anything like that. But then when the Dallas police started investigating the murders, they came up and they questioned me. They questioned Jim. They questioned my friend Brian, and but nothing really. I mean, it was just kind of just random, just typical questions that the police would ask you, So when they got done with me, the detective hands me a card, and he said, man, if you can think of anything, please give me a call. It doesn't matter if it's important or not, because you don't know what's important. We do. And I said, okay, cool. So I had the card and everything. It might have been a couple of days later. It just like came back to my mind and went, whoa, he said that he did it. He really did it. And so I called the detective back and I told him the story. Now, here's the kicker. So right before this happened, remember down at the West End, they used to have the live concerts down there? Well, this particular night, right when all this was happening, Warrant was playing down there. And me and my girlfriend at the time, Amy, and her sister, and Mark drove down there, and we illegally parked the car by the dumpsters at that building that's got the X lights all the way up and down it. I don't know what that building's called. But we parked there. So we said, if we got separated, we'll meet right back there on the corner. So me and Amy got separated from Mark and Amy's sister. So we got there first and we're waiting. Amy's sister shows up. Now we're waiting on Mark. And it wasn't that long. We'd see Mark coming down the sidewalk, and that was El Centro College. And we saw him coming down the sidewalk, and there's two guys just standing there minding their own business, weren't doing anything. And we're watching Mark, and he's mouthing off. We can't hear what he's saying because it was a little bit of distance, but he reaches down, and there was a beer bottle down on the ground, and he broke it up against the window and started waving it at him like he's going to cut him and stuff like that. And then he eventually comes over and crosses the street and comes to us. And I said, dude, if those guys had kicked your ass, I would have let them, man. What the hell's wrong with you? And so it was just right after that I remembered what Mark had said at the bar, and I called the detective and told him, and they actually took me down there, back down to where the West End was and where we were meeting and everything. And I told them the story, what I just told you. And so then, you know, that whole year, I guess, passed. And then there towards the end of the year, like late 1990, that's when the trial started. And he was found guilty of capital murder. And then they called me in to testify in the penalty phase, which was like early January, if I remember correctly. And remember, at that time, I told you I was destitute. I was drinking a lot, smoking cigarettes down to the butt and falling asleep. And the next morning waking up and the butt's right there. And there was right behind, I was living with my dad, and right behind his duplex was a train track. And I remember just walking up and down this train track, just like I was going nowhere. I was so lost and depressed. And then one day at my dad's house, and I have no idea how she did it, but the district attorney, her name was Janet Werder, she called my dad's house, and I answered the phone, and she told me who she was, and I was like, well, yeah, I know who you are. And she said, hey, I'm just calling to check up on you and wanted to thank you for, for your testimony and sharing all the information with us and everything. We would have never solved that 7-Eleven robbery probably. And it was because I told them, I bet if you check the ballistics on and match, they will match the 86-year-old woman and her grandson, and they did. And that's how they solved the 7-Eleven robbery. Well, so anyway, me and Janet were talking on the phone, and she said, I turned your name into Southland Corporation, and I knew who that was. They were at that time, they were the owners of the 7-Eleven franchises. And she said, it just so happens they had a $25,000 reward for the information leading to the catching of the criminal and his conviction, which I did. I helped them to solve that. I mean, it just happened to be at the right place at the wrong place at the right time, I guess. Could have been, could have been anybody that this happened to. And so anyway, Southland Corporation ended up calling me, and they said, we're going to arrange for you to come down to the building, which was when you're driving to downtown Dallas and you just get in right before you're going to take Woodall Rogers and go in front of downtown Dallas, which separates, uptown from downtown. Well, there's that building on the east side of 75, a kind of orangish reddish brick colored building. I think there's a Target down there and all that stuff. That was the building that they were in. And I remember the day I went down there, it was like dark and rainy. It was just a very dismal, gloomy day. It was just so fitting for the day. And so I went up, they were up on one of the higher floors, probably 25th, 26th floor. I don't remember. Walked in there and I sat on this couch for a while waiting, and they called me in, and they, took pictures and thanked me and everything. And they handed me the check, and I signed the paperwork for it and everything. And I took it down to my stepdad's bank. And back then, checks didn't just automatically clear. There were ATMs and stuff like that. There was a little bit of, the technology that we have now, but it doesn't have, we didn't have things like you could take a picture of a check and deposit it in your account like you can now. It took, sometimes, 5 business days or something like that for a check to clear. So in the meantime, my stepdad, Jim, that was the guy that my mom got married to, and the next door neighbor came in and played the organ. He had a bank account at it was a federal credit union. I don't remember what it was called, but he was a postman, and he was also retired Air Force. So we went down there and opened me an account and deposited the check, and then he got me a loan for the 70, I think it was $7,500. No, it was $7,500 for that 1987 Nissan 300ZX. Great little car. And then when the check cleared, then we just paid the loan off. And so I've got this car, and all of a sudden it dawns on me, hey, I've got these great benefits from the Navy that I haven't even really used yet. I haven't topped them out yet. I think I went like one semester at Richland College, and that was it. It gave me a $500 stipend every month, and it paid a certain amount for my books, and it also paid a certain amount for my tuition. So I went, I can go to Musicians Institute. Now, I've been dreaming about this ever since I got out of the Navy. So this is, 6 years in the making. So this is early 1991 when all the trial happened. I got the reward. This was March of 1991 on that dismal day. Well, the preceding days after that, it was really nice outside. And I remember I packed everything in the car, and my mom and my last stepfather, who's still alive, more of a father to me than he'll ever know. Love the man. His name is Richard Taylor. Will always be, grateful to him for how he handled my mother's passing and how he took care of her every day. Wouldn't leave her side. Just an amazing man. I've known him all of my life. Since before I was born, he and his wife and him and my parents were all friends. And so anyway, my mom and Smokey is what we called her. Her name was Betty Taylor. We called her Smokey because she smokes like a freight train. And she was a kidney transplant recipient. And some of the medicines that she was on, when she farted, it would clear the house. Yeah, it was that bad. I mean, you've never smelled anything so horrendous in your life. And we always joke about that to this day. It's just one of the standing jokes that we have. It's one of the greatest memories of her that we have. And she had the greatest fingernails that she'd scratch your back and everything. And oh my God, she was just a blessing. And miss you every day, Smokey. And so anyway, I'm going to start wrapping this up, y'all. I've been telling stories. I didn't know. I've been rambling a lot and everything, but that's what this is about. It's about the stories, and I'm going to eventually get really good at this and not go down so many rabbit trails, but that's just the fun of it. So I went down. They were at the hairdresser getting their hair dyed and everything. I'd actually been there maybe a couple of days before that. I had long brown hair, and they put some blonde highlights in my hair. Looked really cool. I was, Joe Heavy Metal at that time. And went to go say goodbye to my mom and Smokey. And I took off and drove the car to California. And I went right back to it. So that's right at the time when the George Lynch, the Lynch Mob album, the first one with Wicked Sensation on it, came out. And that song, the first time I heard it, it just grabbed me. And I wanted to learn how to play it. And I actually have dabbled with it, through the years and everything. I've never tried to play the song all the way through, so maybe one day I will. And I'll probably have to get permission from George Lynch to be able to play the song on my video and everything. And it's probably going to be a lifestyle deal. I know there's ways that you can get around it on YouTube. I got to figure those out. I don't want to, I really eventually want to monetize this channel. But that's in the future. I'm not even thinking about that. I'm just trying to learn how to speak on camera and talk on the microphone and just have a good time with you. I'm just talking to you like I'm a friend, and you're probably sitting there chugging Jack Daniels right now telling me when am I going to show it up, So anyway, So I had back then I had a cassette player in the car. CD players were just about to come out, and so I wore that tape out. I mean, I played it over. Oh my God, it was just so good. It's just one of those nostalgic things that I'm talking about. That music just takes you back to a grand time in your life, you know. So, y'all, I'm gonna kind of start wrapping this up. I'm gonna give you a little subtle tease here. There's a moment in my life. I heard a certain guitar piece. Already told you what it was that changed everything for me. I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to get into that today. Okay, that's going to come up on a different live video. But I will tell you this. I'm going to document the journey of learning it from where I am right now. Now, I dabbled in it last year, and I kind of know the concept of it. So, what's coming up? Well, we're going to talk about bands, songs, and moments. Boston, MTV, the explosion of rock, and the stories behind it all. So if you love rock and roll, and if you love nostalgia, if you love that feeling music gives you, this is Heroes of Rock. Let's get ready to rock. You know what I mean? So here's the intro tag. I love this song. I made it with AI. And this was both of it, the song and the video is all AI, and I just thought it was really cool. So let's just get ready to rock in the coming seasons of our lives and everything. I'm gonna remember stuff. I'm gonna make videos. I'm gonna do live videos. I'm gonna tell you how to fix your car if I can. I'm gonna do guitar lessons. I'm gonna do all kinds of stuff. So everybody, I'm Joe. I'm the
digital outlaw of rock and roll.
And this is Heroes of Rock.
Hero of rock.
Heroes of rock! Heroes of rock! Heroes of rock!
Y'all, thank you for joining me today. Just one more of my intro stinger, and I'm getting used to pushing these buttons.